When you create distance, not the kind born from anger or punishment, but the kind rooted in self-respect, something very powerful begins to happen. A man starts to see you differently because for the first time, he is forced to feel you instead of simply having access to you. Most women are taught that closeness builds love, that availability proves devotion, that being understanding will eventually be rewarded. But what no one tells you is that constant availability often blurs value. When someone knows you will always be there, always reply, always adjust, the mind quietly categorizes you as secure, predictable, and guaranteed. And human nature, especially masculine nature, does not fiercely protect what feels guaranteed. Distance creates contrast. It introduces the idea that your presence is a privilege, not a default setting. When you step back, you are not disappearing. You are allowing space for recognition. A man who was once comfortable suddenly notices the quiet. He notices the lack of your energy, your warmth, your support, your laughter. And that absence creates a question inside him. Why does this feel different? Why does this feel heavier than I expected? That question is the doorway to value. Value is not something you announce. You don't convince a man of your worth with words, tears, explanations, or sacrifices that go unnoticed. Value is experienced. It is felt when something meaningful is no longer constantly present. Think about it. People rarely appreciate air until they can't breathe. They rarely appreciate health until they lose it. And they rarely appreciate a woman until her emotional labor, her attention, and her consistency are no longer freely flowing. Creating distance does not mean being cold. It means being intentional. It means no longer overgiving where there's under-receiving. It means stepping out of the role of emotional caretaker and stepping into the role of a woman with standards. When you stop checking in all the time, stop initiating every conversation, stop fixing emotional gaps that are not yours to fix, he begins to notice the shift. At first, it confuses him. Then it unsettles him. And finally, it makes him reflect. Reflection is where value is recalculated. When a man has space, his mind begins to replay moments. He remembers how you supported him when no one else did. He remembers the way you believed in him, the way you listened, the way you brought peace into his chaos. But this time, those memories are paired with the realization that he no longer has unlimited access to you. That combination is powerful. It transforms you from the woman who's always there into the woman I could lose. Loss is one of the strongest teachers. It sharpens awareness. It clarifies priorities. When a man senses that he might lose you, not because you threatened to leave, but because you chose yourself, his perception changes. You move from being convenient to being valuable, and value is what triggers commitment. Distance also communicates something silently, but strongly. You are not desperate. Desperation repels because it signals imbalance. When one person needs more than the other, power shifts. But when you pull back calmly, without drama, without explanation, it signals emotional stability. It tells him you are grounded, self-aware, and capable of walking away if your needs are not met. That kind of emotional strength is deeply attractive because it suggests that you are not looking for someone to complete you. You are looking for someone to build with you. A man who is serious about a future pays attention to women who can stand on their own, not because he wants distance forever, but because he wants partnership, not dependency. When you create distance, you show him that your life is full, that your happiness does not pause waiting for his decisions. You are still kind, still warm, still loving, but no longer overextended. That balance changes how he categorizes you in his mind. You are no longer someone he dates casually. You are someone he considers carefully. Another powerful effect of distance is that it exposes intentions. When you step back, the man who is unsure unserious, or only enjoying comfort will fade. And that is not a loss, it is clarity. But the man who sees your value will step forward. He will ask questions. He will initiate. He will make effort. Distance gives him the opportunity to choose you instead of coasting with you. Choice is the foundation of commitment. Men bond through pursuit and effort. When there's no effort required, bonding weakens. Distance reintroduces effort naturally, not through games, but through boundaries. You are not ignoring him to provoke anxiety. You are prioritizing yourself to restore balance. And when balance is restored, attraction deepens. There is also something deeply psychological at play. When you are always present, the brain stops registering your presence as something special. It becomes background noise. Distance resets the nervous system. Suddenly, interactions feel meaningful again. Conversations feel intentional. Time together feels earned. That shift is what moves you from being seen as a girlfriend to being seen as a potential wife. A wife, in a man's mind, is not just someone he loves. She is someone he respects. Someone he doesn't want to lose. Someone who holds herself with dignity. Distance cultivates that respect. It shows that you do not tolerate half effort, unclear intentions, or emotional laziness. And when a man realizes that access to you requires clarity, consistency, and purpose, he begins to evaluate himself. Am I ready for this level of woman? Can I meet her where she is? That internal evaluation is critical. It is the moment where boys fall away and men step up. And it only happens when you stop filling in the gaps for him. When you stop carrying the emotional weight of the relationship alone. When you stop proving you are worthy and start acting like you already know you are. Distance also protects your heart. It prevents resentment from building. Many women grow resentful not because they are unloved, but because they overgave without boundaries. Distance gives you space to breathe, to observe, to feel without constantly reacting. It puts you back in alignment with yourself. And alignment is magnetic. When a man senses that you are aligned, he feels it. Your energy changes. You are calmer, less anxious, less reactive. That calm confidence is impossible to fake. It tells him you are not afraid to stand alone if necessary. And paradoxically, that makes him want to stand with you. Value is not loud. It does not beg to be seen. It becomes undeniable when it is no longer freely available. By creating distance, you are not punishing him. You are revealing yourself. You are allowing him to finally see the full weight of who you are and what your presence adds to his life. And when a man truly sees that, he doesn't want to date you casually. He doesn't want to risk losing you. He starts thinking long term. He starts thinking seriously. He starts seeing you not just as the woman he loves, but as the woman he wants to keep. A man does not commit because he is pressured, reminded, convinced, or emotionally cornered. A man commits when he feels that the woman in front of him requires a version of himself that he cannot access without effort. Commitment is not born from comfort, it is born from challenge. Not struggle, not chaos, not drama, but purposeful effort. When effort is optional, commitment stays optional. When effort is required, commitment becomes a decision he must make. Many women misunderstand this and believe love alone should be enough. They think that if they show enough care, enough patience, enough loyalty, a man will naturally step up. But men do not step up because you gave more. They step up because they had to rise to meet a standard. If a man can enjoy your presence, your body, your emotional support, your understanding, and your forgiveness without changing his behavior or clarifying his intentions, he has no internal reason to commit. He may care about you deeply, but care does not equal commitment. Effort is the bridge between the two. Effort activates a man's identity. When a man works for something, he connects it to a sense of self. He starts to think, I earned this. And what a man earns, he protects. What he protects, he values. What he values, he commits to. This is why relationships that come too easily often fall apart quietly. There was no investment deep enough to anchor them. There was no effort strong enough to create emotional ownership. When you require effort, you are not demanding perfection. You are requiring intention. You are saying, without saying it, that access to you comes with responsibility, that your time is not free, that your emotional world is not open to anyone who drifts in casually. This immediately changes the dynamic. A man begins to understand that being with you means showing up fully or not at all. Effort clarifies priorities. A man's actions reveal exactly where you stand in his life. When effort is required, excuses become visible. Delays become loud. Inconsistency becomes obvious. And this clarity is not meant to shame him. It is meant to inform you. A man who is serious will adjust. A man who is not will resist. Either way, the truth surfaces quickly. Men respect boundaries more than please. When you ask repeatedly for reassurance, for clarity, for commitment, it places you in a position of negotiation. But when you quietly remove yourself from situations that do not meet your standards, it places you in a position of authority over your own life. Authority demands effort. Negotiation invites compromise at your expense. Requiring effort also shifts the emotional labor back where it belongs. Many women unknowingly do the heavy lifting in relationships. They initiate conversations, smooth conflicts, plan futures, excuse behavior, and carry emotional weight that the man should be carrying. When you stop doing that, there is a vacuum. And vacuums demand action. Either he steps in to fill it, or the space remains empty. Both outcomes serve you. Effort forces a man to confront his readiness. When everything is easy, a man can delay decisions indefinitely. He can say, let's see where this goes, while enjoying the benefits of intimacy. But when effort is required, he must ask himself real questions. Am I ready to lead? Am I ready to be consistent? Am I ready to offer security? Those questions cannot be avoided when a woman does not accept ambiguity. A woman who requires effort is not difficult. She is discerning. She is not asking for extravagance. She is asking for consistency. She is not testing a man. She is observing him. An observation is powerful because it removes emotion from decision making. You are no longer reacting to potential. You are responding to behavior. Men fall in love differently than women. A woman often falls in love through connection and communication. A man falls in love through contribution. The more he contributes, the more emotionally attached he becomes. Effort deepens his bond. It makes him feel involved, needed, and invested. Without effort, his emotional attachment remains shallow, even if he enjoys the relationship. This is why a man who had to work to keep you will fight harder to keep you. He has skin in the game. He has memories tied to action, not just emotion. He remembers the effort he made, the changes he implemented, the growth he experienced. You are no longer just a part of his life. You are a reflection of his progress as a man. Requiring effort also changes how he talks about you to others. A woman he works for is a woman he respects publicly. He does not minimize her. He does not keep her hidden. He does not treat her casually. He speaks about her with pride because her presence represents something he values and works to maintain. Effort separates infatuation from intention. Infatuation enjoys you when it's easy. Intention chooses you when it's demanding. When you require effort, you give intention room to reveal itself. You stop mistaking attention for commitment and start recognizing consistency as love. Some women fear that requiring effort will scare a man away. And it will, but only the wrong one. The man who is intimidated by standards is not intimidated by you. He is intimidated by what you require of him. And that man is not ready for partnership. Letting him go is not a loss. It is alignment. A man who sees you as his future understands the effort is not a burden, it is an investment. He does not resent the work. He welcomes it because he understands what he is building toward. He sees you not as a challenge to conquer, but as a life to step into. When effort is required, you stop being an option and start being a responsibility. And responsibility is where commitment lies. A man does not commit because he feels rushed. He commits because he feels responsible for protecting something meaningful. When you allow yourself to be too easy to access, too flexible with standards, too forgiving without change, you remove the conditions that create responsibility. Effort also creates emotional safety. When a man shows up consistently, plans intentionally, communicates clearly, and follows through, your nervous system relaxes. You stop guessing. You stop overthinking. And that calm energy feeds back into the relationship, making it healthier and more secure. Healthy relationships are not built on intensity. They are built on reliability. A woman who requires effort teaches a man how to love her properly, not through lectures, but through boundaries. Not through ultimatums, but through self-respect. And men learn best through experience. When he experiences that half effort results in distance and full effort results in closeness, the lesson becomes clear. Effort is not about control. It is about clarity. Answers the unspoken question every woman carries, is he serious about me? And when effort is present, the answer speaks for itself. You do not need reassurance when actions are consistent. You do not need promises when behavior is aligned. In the end, men do not commit because they are asked to. They commit because they are required to grow. And growth only happens where effort is necessary. When you require effort, you are not asking a man to prove his love, you are giving him the opportunity to rise into it. Self-respect is not loud. It does not argue, chase, threaten, or beg. It moves quietly, firmly, and without apology. When a woman operates from self-respect, she doesn't need to convince a man of her worth because her behavior already communicates it. And this is where the shift happens. From being admired to being taken seriously, from being desired to being respected, from being dated to being considered as a wife. Many women believe that love is proven by how much they endure, how much they forgive, how much they stay even when things are unclear. They think patience will eventually turn into commitment. But what actually happens is the opposite. When you tolerate inconsistency, mixed signals, emotional laziness, or unclear intentions, you teach a man how to treat you, not intentionally, but through repetition. He learns that he can show up halfway and still have full access to you. And once that pattern is set, it becomes his normal. Self-respect interrupts that pattern. It redraws the rules without needing a speech. When you stop responding immediately, stop over-explaining your feelings, stop justifying your needs, something changes in the dynamic. You are no longer trying to be understood. You are standing in your truth. That alone creates a shift in power. Power, in this sense, is not control over him. It is control over yourself. A man watches behavior more than he listens to words. You can tell him what you want 100 times, but he learns who you are by what you allow. Self-respect shows up in what you walk away from, not what you tolerate. And walking away, even emotionally, signals strength. It signals that you are not afraid of your own company, that your peace matters, that your standards are not flexible based on fear of loss. Fear is what keeps many women stuck. Fear of starting over, fear of being alone. Fear that if they pull back, the man will leave. But a relationship that only survives because you are afraid to set boundaries is not secure, is fragile. Self-respect replaces fear with clarity. You stop asking, what can I do to make him stay? And start asking, does this situation align with who I am and what I want? When a man senses that you are no longer afraid to lose him, he begins to reconsider how he shows up, not because he's being manipulated, but because the dynamic has changed. You are no longer negotiating your worth. You are no longer proving you are enough. You are simply being. And that is powerful. Self-respect also changes how you communicate. You become less reactive and more intentional. You don't argue to be heard. You don't chase closure. You don't demand explanations. You observe. You listen. You notice patterns. And when something does not feel right, you respond with action instead of emotion. That calm detachment is often mistaken for indifference, but it is actually self-control. And self-control commands respect. Men respect women who respect themselves because it mirrors how they view their own identity. A man who is building himself understands discipline, boundaries, and standards. When he sees those qualities in a woman, he recognizes a partner, not a project. He understands that this is someone who will not drain him emotionally, someone who will not tolerate chaos, someone who will hold herself accountable as much as she holds others accountable. Self-respect also eliminates the need for ultimatums. Ultimatums are often a sign that boundaries were not enforced early. But when you operate from self-respect, boundaries are clear from the beginning. You don't threaten to leave, you simply don't stay where you are not valued. And that consistency builds credibility. A man learns that your words match your actions. And when words and actions align, trust forms. There is a misconception that being self-respecting means being distant or cold. That is not true. You can be warm, affectionate, supportive, and loving while still maintaining boundaries. Self-respect is not emotional withdrawal. It is emotional selectivity. You choose where your energy goes. You choose who has access to your vulnerability. You choose who benefits from your loyalty. When a man realizes that not everyone gets access to you, he begins to feel privileged to be close to you. Privilege creates responsibility. Responsibility creates commitment. A woman who respects herself does not rush intimacy, emotional or physical, without clarity. She understands that intimacy without intention often leads to attachment without security. And she values security too much to gamble with her heart. Self-respect also influences how you are treated socially. A man introduces, includes, and acknowledges a woman he respects. He doesn't hide her. He doesn't keep her in the background. He doesn't leave her guessing where she stands. If he does, a self-respecting woman does not argue about it. She removes herself from the confusion. Confusion is a form of disrespect. Clarity is the minimum standard. When you stop chasing reassurance, reassurance starts coming naturally. When you stop asking where you stand, your position becomes clear through actions. This is not because the man suddenly changed. It is because you changed how you engage. You stopped rewarding ambiguity. You stopped making excuses for inconsistency. And without that cushion, a man must either step up or step aside. Self-respect also protects your emotional health. It keeps you from internalizing someone else's indecision as a reflection of your worth. You understand that someone's inability to commit often has more to do with their readiness than your value. This understanding keeps you grounded. It keeps you from overanalyzing every text, every silence, every mood shift. Peace becomes your priority. A woman who prioritizes peace over attention becomes magnetic. There's a quiet confidence in her presence. She's not rushing. She's not anxious. She's not performing. She is simply living her life in alignment with her values. And that energy is rare. Men notice rare energy. They respect it because it cannot be controlled or rushed. Self-respect also reframes love. Love is no longer about endurance. It is about mutual effort. It is no longer about hoping someone will change. It is about choosing someone who already shows up aligned. This mindset shifts you out of survival mode and into selection mode. You are no longer trying to be chosen, you are choosing. When a man sees that you are choosing him, not clinging to him, his behavior shifts. Choice feels different than dependency. Choice feels intentional. Choice feels powerful. And when a man feels chosen by a woman who could walk away but doesn't, that choice carries weight. Self-respect teaches people how to treat you without needing to teach them explicitly. It is not about control, it is about self-leadership. You lead yourself first, and others respond accordingly. And the men who cannot respond with respect naturally fall away. Again, that is not loss, it is refinement. A woman who respects herself does not need to compete with other women. She does not monitor his phone. She does not stalk his social media. She does not compare herself constantly. She trusts herself enough to know that if she is not being valued, she will leave. That trust in self creates emotional security, which is one of the most attractive qualities a woman can possess. In the end, self-respect is the foundation of being seen as a wife. Not because it makes you perfect, but because it makes you stable. It shows that you can hold your own, manage your emotions, and maintain boundaries. A man looking for a life partner is not just looking for love, he's looking for peace, consistency, and mutual respect. And a woman who embodies self-respect naturally signals that she is capable of building all three. Absence has a way of speaking louder than presence ever could. When someone is always there, always reachable, always emotionally available, their impact becomes invisible. Not because they are unimportant, but because the human mind adapts quickly to what feels constant. This is especially true in romantic relationships. When a woman is consistently present without boundaries, a man can enjoy her energy without ever having to sit with the weight of what she truly means to his life. Absence interrupts that comfort and forces awareness. Emotional clarity rarely comes from closeness alone. It often comes from space. Space allows feelings to surface without distraction. When you remove yourself slightly, not in anger but in intention, you give a man room to hear his own thoughts without your constant presence filling the emotional gaps. He is left alone with his reality. And in that quiet, questions arise. Why does this feel different? Why do I miss her more than I expected? Why does my day feel incomplete? Those questions do not come when everything is familiar and convenient. Absence creates contrast. It highlights the difference between having and not having. When you are present all the time, your contribution blends into routine. When you step back, your contribution stands out. A man begins to notice what your presence added to his life peace. Encouragement, emotional support, motivation, laughter, stability. These realizations are not intellectual, they are emotional. He feels the difference in his mood, his energy, his focus. And feelings are what drive decisions, not logic alone. Many men do not fully understand their emotions until something disrupts their normal flow. Men are often action-oriented and distraction-prone. They stay busy. They compartmentalize. They avoid sitting with feelings unless forced to. Absence forces that confrontation. When you are not there to provide comfort, validation, or emotional grounding, he must face the emotional gap on his own. That gap becomes informative. It tells him what role you played in his life. Absence also prevents emotional dependency from forming in healthy ways. When two people are constantly intertwined, without space, emotions can blur. Attachment can form without clarity. Love can exist without direction. Absence separates emotion from habit. It allows a man to ask himself whether he values you because of who you are or simply because you are always there. That distinction matters deeply when it comes to commitment. When a man feels your absence, memory becomes active. He starts replaying moments, conversations, laughs, the way you listened, the way you showed up when he was stressed, the way you believed in him. Memory fills the space where presence used to be. And memory is powerful because it is selective. It highlights meaning. It strips away trivial moments and amplifies emotional ones. This selective recall deepens attachment. Absence also removes emotional noise. When you are always present, small conflicts, misunderstandings, or irritations can cloud perception. Space allows those minor issues to fade. What remains is essence, the core of how he feels about you. If that core is strong, absence strengthens the bond. If it is weak, absence exposes it. If the outcome brings clarity. Emotional clarity is not about forcing decisions. It is about allowing truth to surface naturally. When you stop feeling silent, stop initiating constant contact, stop smoothing every emotional edge, you allow authenticity to emerge. A man either reaches for you because he wants to, or he doesn't. That reaching is meaningful. It is chosen, not habitual. Absence also shifts the dynamic of pursuit. When you are always present, pursuit stagnates. There's nothing to pursue. When you create space, pursuit becomes necessary again, not in a manipulative way, but in a natural one. A man who values you will step forward to reestablish connection. He will initiate. He will check in. He will make effort to close the distance. This effort is not prompted by fear, it is driven by realization. Some women fear that absence will make a man forget them. But a woman who is truly impactful cannot be forgotten quickly. Presence creates familiarity, absence tests significance. If a man forgets you easily, the bond was shallow. And discovering that early saves you from investing in illusion. Absence also protects your emotional dignity. It keeps you from overfunctioning in the relationship. Overfunctioning happens when one person constantly maintains connection while the other simply participates. This imbalance drains self-worth. By creating space, you restore balance. You allow the relationship to breathe. And breathing is essential for growth. When a man is given space, he also evaluates his future. Without your constant presence, he imagines life ahead. And in that imagination, you are either missing or deeply missed. That emotional projection is where long-term thinking begins. He starts considering what life would look like without you, not just today, but years from now. That thought carries weight. Absence also reveals emotional maturity. A mature man can sit with longing without resentment. He can recognize value without entitlement. He can move toward connection with intention. An immature man, on the other hand, reacts with avoidance or blame. Absence exposes this difference clearly. And clarity is always valuable. There is also something deeply respectful about choosing space instead of conflict. Instead of arguing to be understood, you step back to be respected. Instead of demanding clarity, you allow clarity to emerge. This calm approach signals emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is attractive because it promises stability, not chaos. Absence does not mean you stop caring. It means you care enough about yourself to not overextend. It means you trust that what is real will remain and what is not will fall away. This trust in the process creates inner calm. And inner calm changes how you show up when you do reconnect. You are not desperate. You are not anxious. You are grounded. When you reconnect after space, interactions feel different, more intentional, more present. Words carry more weight. Time feels more valuable. This reset can transform the entire dynamic of a relationship. It reminds both people that connection is a choice, not an obligation. Absence also prevents premature intimacy from clouding judgment. When emotions are constantly reinforced through presence, it is easy to confuse intensity with compatibility. Space allows you to evaluate alignment. Do values match? Do goals align? Does effort remain consistent without constant reinforcement? These answers become clearer with distance. A man who gains emotional clarity through absence does not feel forced into commitment. He arrives at it internally. He understands not just that he wants you, but why he wants you. That understanding is critical. Commitment without clarity leads to resentment. Commitment with clarity leads to stability. Absence teaches a man how much emotional space you occupy in his life. When that space feels empty without you, he recognizes your significance. And recognition precedes responsibility. Responsibility precedes commitment. This is why absence, when practiced with self-respect and intention, is not a risk, it is a truth revealer. It does not create feelings that are not already there. It uncovers the ones that are. And what is uncovered through absence is often deeper, more honest, and more enduring than what is sustained through constant presence.